Hello. Welcome to Only Weird Games on KC Sports Network, a serious podcast about serious things hosted by serious people. Let's begin.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank. If you're thinking about starting a business or know someone who is, check out Emprise Bank's SBA loans. It's always good to know your options, and they can be your partner in possible.
Is it getting warm out here, or is it just me? Welcome to a Halloween edition of Only Weird Games. If you think it's funny that I'm dressed up as a penguin, imagine the fact that Seth and Nate did not know that I was going to be in costume. I was wearing the bottom half of the penguin costume during our pre-show section, and yeah, you heard me. Go ahead and let your imagination run wild, because there is one penguin and two grown-ups who analyze football as part of their living, and I can't think of a better combination for a podcast.
I just want to, real quick, fellas, I just got a text, a stunning text, that I must inform you.
Oh, no.
I really think this is an honest text message.
Is it from Kamala Harris or some... Is it... You've already voted, right?
Nathaniel, it's Kamala Harris.
Yes!
I'm turning to you because you are among the most dedicated supporters. I am?
That's a huge honor, I think. I thought for sure I was going to say she's tuning into Only Weird Games right now, and I have some thoughts about Xavier Worthy getting the ball more.
That's right. I know it might seem like giving $5 or $50 with so little time left won't make a difference, but we need you to get Xavier Worthy the ball. It's
really important. It's
really important. So I'm asking for your contribution today.
I would donate between $5 and $50 to get Xavier Worthy the ball more. I would have donated $5 to $50 to pay for Deontay Johnson's contract.
Oh, interesting. Well, you see, I have another text, Josh, that surprisingly just came in, and it is from one Donald Trump. I'm pretty sure. Again, it's him. I'm pretty sure Donald Trump just texted me asking for Joshua Uche film review.
Man, who would have thought that those two, the one thing that could unite our country is both candidates are pro-Chiefs. Who knew?
Yeah.
I mean, I personally think this could have been a unifying thing during this could have gotten people on the same page. But, I mean, let's just take it this way with this. Like you said, the fact that you're receiving these texts from these people and it's absolutely them.
Absolutely.
The one thing we can confirm then is that no matter what happens in the next week or two, the Chiefs are indeed America's team, no matter what. And I like it. I'm happy to hear
that. That feels like a good button on that. America's team, no matter what. I could do with a few less weird elections, if I'm being honest, but weird games are fun.
Yeah. Hey, Donald. Not many people call me Nathaniel. That goes for you, Kamala. I mean, guys, it's just,
casual. Clearly, we're good friends.
Yeah, mix it up. Like, it's fine. Like, it's totally fine. Like, now the mothership doesn't really want me to donate or publicly tell you if I donated, so could you stop?
I have no opinions on what Nate is currently saying.
Yeah, just it's just hey, the mothership is the mothership. She's the gray lady. Does the mothership have a Halloween costume today?
I don't know. What would that look like? I don't
Terror.
Know. Yeah, I mean, fair enough. We'll see how long it's getting a little toasty in here, but that's just because I'm used to living in the Arctic. Antarctica? Which one is it? But what's really
where the Iceland is.
You know what's really cold, fellas?
What?
The Kansas City Chiefs defense.
Whoa.
Steve Spagnuolo, cold. Chris Jones, what's his nickname? What is he?
Stone
Cold
Jones.
Yeah, I heard today that he is a problem, Josh. I don't know if you're aware of that.
I was. In fact, in these divisive times, Joshua Uche did say, very close to verbatim, I think the one thing we could all unanimously agree on is that Chris Jones is a problem. And I like to think that that's a bipartisan issue.
Yes.
I don't know if it actually is, but I like to believe that it might be. We have collectively attempted to talk about the Chiefs defense for more than like 10% of the show for pretty much this and last season. It's a thing that tends to happen. And now we're in kind of this strange time of a Thursday after a game that might as well have been years ago and before a Monday night game that might as well be years away. We actually have a little bit of room to talk about how good this Chiefs defense has been. Nate, you wrote about it specifically over on The Athletic. We've all been looking and writing and watching and talking about this unit for a while. But I'll let you open it up, Nate, and kind of taking the snapshot of where the Chiefs defense was left against the Raiders on a couple of occasions. One in particular, just a few yards away from the end zone. You have no points in that transaction. Feels like a good microcosm of where this defense has been this year.
Yes, it really is. The biggest reason why the Chiefs are 7-0, and I know this is very simple, is because how's your feet?
So just do ignore me as you guys talk, but I'm going to go ahead and mute my mic while you two talk about the defense while I adjust. This went okay, but I got an open back penguin costume right now, and I'm just going to try to fix that on camera while you guys talk about the defense.
Right.
Unless you think that might help viewership, in which case I won't.
I mean, if you can turn around for us, that'd be great. Oh yeah. So anyway, the Chiefs this season are 7-0 for two reasons. Very simply, the defense is excellent, and Patrick Mahomes basically turns into the league's best quarterback in the fourth quarter. If those two trends continue to go a certain way, the Chiefs will be once again the top contender for this year's Super Bowl. A quick study. Hey, the offense doesn't really help us in the season opener in the fourth quarter, which means we're on the field constantly. It's still the most snaps they've played all season. So by the skin of our chinny chin chins, we push, Isaiah Likely out of the end zone. Well, the next week, the offense refuses to score a touchdown in the fourth quarter, right? So that means we have to force a fumble, pick the ball up, and score the only touchdown in the fourth quarter to rescue the team. The next week, the offense, yet again, chooses not to score a touchdown in the fourth quarter, which means we have to do it twice. We have to do two red zone stops in our own end, in the fourth quarter to beat Kirk Cousins and the Atlanta Falcons. And then, a game that we should absolutely be dominating, but somehow the game is still close. It's not really Patrick's fault. It's, it just sort of happens. Tip ball. All of a sudden, it's an interception. The Raiders have the ball at the 3-yard line with 4 chances, theoretically, to score a, game-leading touchdown. And so one of the things, based on that quick review I told you of September, one of the things I wanted to ask guys in the locker room was, okay, another situation where you've been put in dire conditions. What's going through your mind? Like, how do you process the sudden change? The fact that, you're probably going to be trailing here if everything doesn't go perfect. And again, Leo Chenal, shout out to him. His quote was amazing to me because it tells you the psyche of the defense and just how insane they are this year. Leo Chenal told me, quote, "We looked each other in the eye and we're like, oh, we got this." Going through each play, you could feel it more and more. It's such a good feeling. It's one of the best feelings in football. They didn't score a touchdown when they had 4 opportunities inside the 5-yard line. Okay. And the game was over the moment that sequence happened. And then just to put the cherry on top, based on a pretty good pass rushing sequence, Mike Pennell is the one who chases down, Gardner Minshew and forces a fumble that Drew Tranquil picks up, and now the game is over. It's donezo. So, regardless of whatever scenario they've been in this year, they have always sort of arrived at the challenge with a pretty positive mindset, and then they've actually done it, throughout the course of the season. So I don't know if it's boring for the audience, for listeners, voyeurs, readers, but the defense is playing so good, guys, that you have to acknowledge throughout all the constant change on the other side of the football, the defense was great. I mean, Derek Notty's had a kind of like an okay season, and then he was like, "Sure, you want me to have 3 incredible snaps at the goal line?"
Well, and
Okay.
this is something that happens when you're not, and Notty's had kind of an up and down career as a pure nose tackle, but right now with Big Mike Pennell taking some of the snaps, every time Derek Notty comes in, it's like, I'm pretty fresh. I feel pretty good. Oh, you've been hand fighting Big Mike and who's that other guy? Chris Jones all game.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds really exhausting. I'm actually feeling great. So that was a great series. If people want to feel really good about the Chiefs play calling, which by the way, red zone woes been fixed in recent weeks. One of the reasons why Patrick Mahomes doesn't have like 5 more touchdowns is because they're like, well, you know who should get that touchdown? Kareem Hunt. And so that's just something we're keeping in mind when you're looking at statistical stuff. 2 plays back to back, the Chiefs. It's that first play that really makes such a big deal when it's, first and goal from like the 2. If you stuff them at the 2 or at like the 1.5 or 1 yard line, each inch they gain right there, or if they just stay just as close, it changes the whole dynamic. If you drop them for a loss of 2, that's a game changer, because now you are definitely out of range of a sneak. Now you're definitely out of range of, and 2 plays in a row, back to back on opposite sides, they had a wide receiver try to block Drew Tranquil. 2 plays in a row.
Did it work?
It was, yep. It did not. I mean, it was just he was back there so fast, and you saw it with Jacoby Meyer the second snap, because the way that it's set up, the way that he's lined up is basically straight across, or maybe even a little inside from the receiver. So the receiver is essentially trying to reach block Tranquil. That just doesn't work. That's not how there are probably maybe some receivers who could do it. Like maybe if you were like, hey, DK Metcalf, like I want you, but even then they play different. They almost play a different sport. The way they seek out contact versus the way they avoid it. That is just not fair. And it's hilarious both times. Unsung hero on one of the plays, I can't remember which one, Roland Wallace. Helping stuff that at the line, coming up which, by the way, I'm intrigued by Roland Wallace. He gave up some completion, sure, but boy, was he right there. That's interesting. And
I don't think I mentioned this on Tuesday, just since we're talking about Chris Roland Wallace, probably for the only time in this show. He had a good blitz out of the slot. I can't remember exactly when, but I went back through and I watched like 3 times to make sure, 1, that it was him, and 2, that it was good. Like, okay, Spags trusting you out of the slot to do some of those things that Trent McDuffie is elite at, that, even L'Jarius Sneed, but specifically, hey, we got McDuffie outside a little more now because we're running out of corners. Can you go ahead and ruin Gardner Minshew's day, blitzing out of the slot? You can. That's something.
He moves a little bit like a guy we've come used to seeing in terms of like just like a Spags corner, and he's not afraid of physicality. That's the big thing. I know people are mad at Josh Williams this week because he had a really bad series, basically. He had a really, really, really bad series. But you know what he's not afraid to do? Be incredibly physical. And we've seen that throughout multiple playoff runs. Those things matter. Their entire team is so physical. We've talked about this a few times. Watching the Chiefs and then watching other teams play defense. That's one of the beautiful things about getting to watch, that getting to watch that psychotic noon slate on Sunday on Red Zone was so great. That was psychotic, but it's also so cool watching other teams' defenses and thinking, man, they don't fly to the ball the way the Chiefs do. Yeah. And there are better pass rushes in the league. There are probably better secondaries in the league. But like putting everything together, it's tough to find a team that's good everywhere, or at least adequate everywhere. They don't really have anything to pick on. Maybe the cornerback room it's not what it was with Jalen Watson, but they're very good at everything overall. And now, like we talked about Tuesday, which people may or may not remember, people were a little distracted. I'm not sure. We're still looking for the guy who did it. But the adding of Uche, who they're already saying might play some snaps. You know how when it's easy to be molded into a defense? When you got one job. Yeah. And that job is, we're going to line you up at left or right defensive end. Beat the tackle. That's it. That's your job. But what about the scheme? No. Let's not get Joshua. Let's not get carried away here. We need you to do one thing. It's like, do you need me to play run defense? No, we got more. We got guys that do that. We got guys for that. We got guys who do that, and they're way better at it than you. Have you looked across the room? You see that guy? He went to Wisconsin. He played in negative 10-degree weather. He's
the guy
nuts.
who writes with Sharpie on his forearms death row every morning as a part of like a makeup routine. That guy, he'll set the edge. You go get the quarterback.
Yeah, you let him set the edge. That other guy who played water polo of all things, who's got weirdly long arms, and yes, I know he's been running the entire time we've been talking. That's George. He'll do that. You just need to get after the quarterback. That's something that's so funny to me, is that they see, even on a really good defense, they say, you know what, we don't have a speed rusher. We're struggling a little bit in pure rush force situations. It's either Chris Jones wins, or less often Wharton or George Karlaftis. So you don't quite, it's not bad. It's not bad, but it's not as good as it could be.
Does that mean I get to blitz again?
Yeah. It means you don't have to blitz again. It means, and this is when Spags is at his best. We saw it in the playoffs last
Seth, it's third down.
It's blitzing.
Okay, you can blitz a little, but
you can blitz a little. But like, if you only have to send 5 or you only have to send 4, it just changes everything. Because there's been snaps this year, and last year they did it a few times where it was just Chris Jones, George Karlaftis, and Charles Omenihu, and they just rushed 3. And the thing is, when you've got 3 guys, especially one of them is a psychopath, 2 of them are guys that can win one-on-ones, that you might get some pressure rushing 3. And it happened at times in the playoffs last year. And so when you give Spags 4 guys who can win, and that's the plan with Uche, is like, hey, you can win one-on-one at a higher clip than the guys we had. And that's no disrespect to George. Good overall football player. Still doesn't win one-on-one at a high enough rate to be like a dude. If you can do that, you give Spags a full compliment. When it's 3rd and 8, he might do anything. Whereas right now, they've been a little more limited to where you got to blitz more often than not, or hopefully Chris Jones or Tershawn Wharton does something. But if you add one more guy, just one more guy, and complementary pass rush, it's a beautiful thing, especially when it's a small sample size like third downs. Now, between it's
so good, Nate. Nate is showing the Chiefs tweeted out like a Halloween graphic that involves Chris Jones, Nick Bolton, and George Karlaftis. None of them are better than George Karlaftis as Frankenstein, which is what Nate is currently showing if you're listening.
I collapse the pocket. I don't have speed rush. I do bull rush.
I bull rush.
And his actual name is Spagnuolo's Monster, just to be clear.
Yes.
Spagnuolo is the defense coordinator.
I collapse that pocket.
And he's perfect for that. And that's the thing. Uche, it's a perfect fit, a speed rusher, a pocket collapser, and a defensive tackle that causes problems. And then another defensive tackle who's having a career year in Wharton. It means that you're more likely to have one other guy who wins or have 2 guys who win at once, which again, we talked about this before. It's about the frequency and intensity of pressure. And I think Uche adds to that. And so I think it's cool for them to say, okay, how can we best help our defense? The most obvious thing is, hey, can we trade for a corner who's going to be better than Josh Williams, Najee Johnson, Roland Wallace? I think a lot of people think that's easy. I don't know if it is. Williams is talented, and yes, he hasn't had a great season this year, but it's like we're forgetting what he's done for 3 years, which has played pretty well. He like, and it's like, okay, well, what can you do? Well, let's put him more in man coverage and say, hey, you're what is he, 6'3"? Like
Yeah.
205, 210? Why don't you?
A legit 6'3" yeah.
Yeah, he's a big dude. Okay, we are going to have you beat the daylights. We're going to show you some film from a guy called Sean Smith. And we want you to just beat these guys up as they get down. But coach, I'll get some penalties. That's okay. Rather have a penalty than a big play. You just make it miserable. We're going to show you some film of Stephon Diggs quiet quitting during games when he plays the Chiefs because he's so tired of getting the crap kicked out of him. That's what we want from you. But what they did is okay, how do we help the secondary? If you can get a corner, great. If you can't, pass rush, that's the way to go. So, I mean, I love it. I love everything about it.
I specifically wanted to ask you to do your Josh Williams thing, which that was the thing. So I'll kick it to Nate there also, because Najee Johnson did not practice today with the concussion. Neither did Juju Smith-Schuster or Ethan Driscoll. That was an illness for him, and obviously he hasn't been active this year. But Mike Dana, Kareem Hunt, both limited in practice today. But no Najee Johnson in the concussion protocol. Right. Certainly seems possible with an extra day, too, that he could end up back for Monday night. But let's just put him out of the picture for now, Nate. I want to have that extended Joshua Williams conversation that Seth just laid out, because I saw him tweet about it a couple days ago and say, well, hold on. He's not a bum. Like he has fallen down this depth chart, but we've actually seen him. He's also not a total unknown, which I think might be the other part of this that is a little bit different than usual. We've seen him play meaningful snaps for this team, as Seth has mentioned there, and otherwise. He has gotten lost in his zones, but is pretty good in man, and he can use those, let's just say, like big long flippers to play good man coverage, hit you at the line, and knock you off your spot. Before training camp, I thought Joshua Williams had the best chance to be the number 2 corner on this team.
He did
coming into the year.
He did.
Obviously, that didn't go well. Maybe you need to take us back to training camp a little bit to also explain why he fell the way he did, how he got jumped by Watson and then Najee Johnson. But I'm a little more hopeful about his potential here than I think some more pessimistic Chiefs Twitter users that I've seen recently. So where should we be at on that number 2 corner spot and Joshua Williams in particular?
Yeah, this will be quite telling for Joshua Williams, because he will be basically put in the same circumstances, the same scenario that Jalen Watson had on opening night, when it became very clear during that game week in the prep to facing Baltimore that you're going to get all the reps. You are our number 2 corner, and we're going to give you the first crack, and we see how it goes. It went really well, and then he had a very good 6-game stretch as a legitimate starter. Similar thing happened last week. No Jalen Watson. Okay, the reins are being given over to Najee Johnson. He will get all the reps this week in preparation to play the whole game. He didn't make it to halftime, unfortunately, with the concussion that he suffered. So now, again, assuming that, like you said, no Najee Johnson, I think the Chiefs are more going to be on the cautious side of Najee Johnson. They don't necessarily feel like they have to bring him back, even if he does clear the concussion protocol, because you do have Roland Wallace available to you. If that's the case, guess who gets all the reps? So you want to see a much different performance from Joshua Williams, knowing that he knows that everybody else knows that he's the starter. Okay, well, let's see some elevated performance against Tampa Bay, which, it's unfortunate. Like, this would have been a really nice test for him. Had you had Mike Williams, had you had Chris Godwin. But with that not being the case, okay, go out and be serviceable. Don't give up anything over the top. Like Seth says, if you got to tackle somebody before the ball arrives, then do it. Because as we just said earlier, even if the ball's at the 3-yard line, you might still only give up 3 points. Or if the coach feels desperate enough, you might get out of there with no points because that team feels they need a touchdown, in the second half to try to obviously take momentum from the game. So I think all this is to suggest, again, before the trade deadline, and I know that the Chiefs are still in play to some degree, you want Joshua Williams to sort of confirm to the coaching staff and the front office, yes, I have been in this system before. I have developed well. I've played well at times, particularly in the postseason in previous years. And when called upon, I can play well yet again. So therefore you don't have to maybe seek out a trade, at the deadline on Tuesday, because I want to remind people, when the Chiefs finish this game Monday against Tampa Bay, the front office will basically be on the phone from that moment. So somewhere between midnight to 3 p.m., that's basically the window that they'll have to make a trade if they don't make anything before kickoff on Monday night. I know sometimes teams like to get ahead of their primetime game if they know the trade deadline's the next day. So I know that's a lot of information, but unlike last week when you get called upon and you're like, oh, wait, what are we doing again? I didn't get all the reps. Like, I'm trying to get into the groove of the game. That will not be an excuse. So you should see a better performance out of Joshua Williams.
Anything else you want to add to that equation, Seth? Again, you kind of went first before I even got to ask you about it. So you may have said all that you needed to, but last on cornerback too before we shift gears to the offense.
Only that I really do like what we've seen in limited reps from Roland Wallace. He moves really well. You can see why they think that he's got the juice to be a slot corner. Has good change of direction. Looks like he's comfortable with physicality. He looked fine out there. Like I haven't done an in-depth film review on him, but I mean, he passes the eye test. I think helping the pass rush will be a really big deal. And I do think people do need to maybe just take a breath with Williams. Watson has always been more comfortable in zone looks and that sort of thing. But I mean, Williams has been competent. I think he'll continue to be competent. And the one thing that has set the Chiefs apart from a lot of NFL teams, I had someone ask me earlier this week, we just watched the Chiefs just pick apart the Raiders zone. Just guys were open. Kelsey's great at it. Hopkins is great at it. Like, why don't people just play man coverage against the Chiefs all the time? And my answer was because the NFL is not you can play man coverage every snap league, because these corners just can't run with receivers, because receivers rotate in and out for one thing. Yep. And these aren't robots. If you just sprinted 45, 50 yards, and I mean sprinted, and then had to run back to the huddle, back out again, and you did that a couple times. Yeah. I
thought you were talking to me directly.
But no matter how good
back to the huddle,
no matter how good a shape you were in, because it's like, well, these guys are world-class athletes. They should be in that kind of shape. The problem is you're going up against a guy who wasn't just doing that, who is also a world-class athlete, and you're still human. You can't just play man coverage all the time. The other thing is, if the other team knows man coverage is coming, different route combinations designed to punish man coverage have existed for 60 years. Like, a lot of the more modern zone and man match variants, those are a little more complicated, a little more, but man coverage, it's like, we are going to run crossers and mesh until your guys concuss each other running into each other. Look at all this man you're playing. All right, I guess we'll run trips to the right, and you've got 3 guys there, we've got 3 guys there, but one of your guys is kind of in the wrong spot. I'm just going to throw this ball immediately to this receiver, and we're going to grind out 8 easy yards. Or Juju Smith-Schuster is going to run into your chest, and you're trying to cover Xavier Worthy, and they're not going to call anything because it's within a yard of the line of scrimmage. There's a lot of man coverage beaters out there. So anyway, all that's along the road to a short thought of one thing that distinguishes the Chiefs, like when they play like the Niners or a team like that. They're comfortable breaking tendency from a lot of zone looks, but they'd still play plenty of man. They might play man even more. With Josh Williams, you still are able to do that, because where he's at his best is that aggressive press coverage type look.
The other thing, too, is there's a reason why before the Monday night game against the New Orleans Saints, no team in the NFL had actually ran a full, true Engage 8 cover 0 blitz. Not a single team had done that all season.
That was so awesome.
Until Spags said, I can be the first guy to Engage 8 and get away with it. And again, the other thing, too, I would add to Seth's point is, like, it also depends on, like, where you line up, how much cushion you give, are you trying to give inside leverage? Are you trying to give outside leverage? Well, guess what? Any man route can directly sort of use that against you, depending on where you line up. And if the quarterback is accurate and not named Will Levis, guess who's catching the ball? DeAndre Hopkins. Yep. He's catching it all the time. So it is tough to play cornerback in this league. And again, I always wish we talked more about cornerback play, because every time somebody's wide open on red zone, you're like, he had to think there was safety help there. But again, you can't see the all 22, so you're like, was there safety help? But when the corner's doing this, the hell, man,
arms outstretched. I love it when the hands go up. I think that's the best.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a reason why the Chiefs are also different, but you can perhaps be aggressive too to some degree because Chris Jones exists. So when you have that dominant pass rusher, it does allow you to sort of be wonkier with your tendencies or your alignments, or you're like, hey, don't look at Drew Tranquil. He's dropping in the cover 2 safety. What the hell? because Trent McDuffie's over there.
Yeah.
Speaking to getting the spots in the field you didn't expect to be on. I wonder if GEHA ever wondered if anybody was ever going to talk about this in a Penguin costume. Hey, Chiefs fans, you don't even need to be a part of that Steve Spagnuolo defense to get dropped back as a linebacker going back to play deep safety. You could be on the field at the 50 inside GEHA field for the official coin toss at a Chiefs home game this season. Visit Chiefs.com/GEHA right now, and you can enter to win a chance to be on the field for the march to the three-peat. Plus, you can score other exclusive prizes. Enter for a chance to win at Chiefs.com/GEHA. GEHA is the proud partner of the Kansas City Chiefs. We'll take a timeout. I need to readjust my headgear, and we'll come back and talk about the offense.
We appreciate you supporting KC Sports Network by listening to our podcast. You have helped us become the highest-ranked Chiefs podcast network in 2022 and 2023. And don't forget about our daily Substack newsletter, the best written analysis you can find on the Chiefs straight to your inbox every day. kcsn.substack.com.
I love a great deal as much as the next guy, but I'm not going to crawl through a bed of hot coals just to save a few bucks. It has to be easy. No hoops, no BS. So when Mint Mobile said it was easy to get wireless for $15 a month with the purchase of a 3-month plan, I called them on it. And turns out it really is that easy to get wireless for $15 a month. The longest part of the process was the time I spent on hold waiting to break up with my old provider. To get started, go to mintmobile.com/KCSNOWG. There you'll see that right now, all 3-month plans are only $15 a month, including the unlimited plan. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/KCSNOWG. That's mintmobile.com/KCSNOWG. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/KCSNOWG. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
Is it better or worse with the beak up?
It's funny for different reasons.
I think both bad, though, in their own unique way. Let's talk about
Beaks
something
up?
that hasn't... Let's talk about something that hasn't been bad, but that hasn't been perhaps as good as we may have thought at some point. Let's talk about the deep ball a little bit. We talked about it, no joke, like 3 out of 4 shows as like a real topic during training camp. It was something that certainly, obviously, there was some Hollywood Brown throughout that process, and things have changed. But a huge portion of the excitement around Xavier Worthy was about revitalizing the deep ball in Kansas City, and that being something that we expected to see from him even early in his rookie career. But, sometimes know-it-all non-Penguins like Seth Keysor decide to go on Twitter and suggest maybe the Chiefs' offense could actually improve. Of course, not having looked at the Chiefs' record, knowing they're undefeated, therefore nothing could improve. Everything is already perfect. At least that was Seth's partial experience on Twitter this week. Poor faith interpretations aside, Seth, Are we supposed to be seeing more deep shots to Xavier Worthy by now? Because it feels like it's been a pretty frequent conversation, and the ball's only really gone downfield to him 1, 2, 3 times perhaps this season.
Right. The thing to keep in mind when you look at like what the game plan looked like in week 2, especially, and in week 3, really, they really wanted to be a team that was pushing the ball down the field more. And Mahomes had some rough picks. There were some protection issues. There was obviously a really unfortunate game for Kingsley Suamataia where Trey Hendrickson got the cadence down and got the rookies' technique down and then just started really doing terrible things to him. So one thing that was interesting to me, if you look at deep attempt percentage in the league, if you've got a minimum of 100 dropbacks, Patrick Mahomes is at the very back of the league. At the very back, dead last, which is an interesting thing to see. And so the thing that I went pushing for, so that's one stat to know. They throw deep less than anyone in the league right now, less than anyone. Now that's worth noting. Now, to be fair, again, they are adjusting. They've lost a lot of guys. They've had to do some things on the fly. I think the last couple of weeks, one reason we haven't seen, because we didn't see a single deep shot to Worthy against the Raiders. And there were some coverages that I think they could have taken advantage of. He's shown he can open up and get open down the field. But I also think they were trying to figure out, can we throw this roll at you this last couple of weeks? They want to see, can you do some of these Rashee Rice things? Can you do? And they've had mixed results with it. He can't do things that require contact at the catch point.
Ball hit your hands, though, son.
Yep, ball hit your hands. You got to do it. That's why I said, for him now, they're like, okay, we saw what Hop can do. We're thinking MVS plus now. We can get you some of the, let's think of it as MVS plus, McCole Hardman type role. You do the things that he can already do at a high level. Great. There's some interesting things if you look at the Chiefs offense statistically. Is it okay if I do a little game here, Josh?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We get to play.
I'm going to name a stat.
I need to close my True Media tab. Got it. Okay, here we go. Yep.
I'm gonna name a stat, and I want you guys to tell me where you think the Chiefs rank in the league. Okay. So let's start with a simple one. Let's start with successful play rate. For those who are listening, successful play rate essentially gauges whether or not a play was quote unquote successful.
Sexy.
And nope. I'm not doing that.
Play or not.
Sexy.
I'm not doing.
You know what? The Chiefs are like 28th in sexy play rate this year.
Yes, that is accurate.
You want me to unzip? Okay.
Dang it.
What you doing?
Successful play rate.
Sexy.
What gauges whether a play is successful or not is whether it makes you statistically more likely to get a first down or to score. So the easy way, Seth.
Well, Nate, maybe he'll answer this question in his ongoing sentence.
If we're talking about sexy rate within the red zone,
which to be clear, we're not.
In the red zone, does that make it sexy red?
There's no way Seth knows who that is or that is a
person. But you make me laugh. All right. So a successful play, think of it this way. Seth, why is that better than yards per play? Because not all yardage is created equal. Hey, we gained 5 yards. Hey, that's a good play. Yes, on 1st and 10. On 3rd and 10? No, it's not. It's actually a terrible play. Oh no, we only gained 2 yards. That's terrible. On 3rd and 1, it rules. On 1st and 10, it's bad. That's what success rate measures. So now that we know that, how good is your offense at moving the ball consistently? Where do you guys think the Chiefs rank in the league in successful play rate? Joshua?
7th.
4th.
1st.
Wow.
1st.
Point for me.
Number 1 in the league. Now, how about on offensive dropbacks where the quarterback drops back for a pass? Where do we think they rank?
Based on the running success rate, I will say 8th.
I'll say 7th.
1st.
2 points for me.
53,
I would have gone higher, but I'm playing
53.7% of their play rates on offensive dropbacks are successful. Their successful play rate on rush attempts is 2nd in the league. Dropbacks is 1st. They're moving the ball. Now, here's a good one. Where do you think they rank in the league at turnovers per drive?
I'll go first this time.
29th.
Or 3rd, I guess, depending on.
Yeah.
Bad.
The way you were envisioning it the first time is the correct way.
Okay.
5th, because there are some truly hideous offenses.
So 27th for you, or 20, right?
Yeah, so we're thinking of 29th
Regardless,
would be
I'm winning this one. I'm
29th would be
27,
bad, and
27.
Josh is winning it because it's 29th in the league.
Let's go!
They have turned the ball
Currently-
over on 15.7% of their drives. And now here's the deal. Some of that, like, Mahomes threw some bad picks the first 3 or 4 weeks. His last 4 interceptions have just been terrible luck. Yeah. That's going to equalize at some point. Okay.
So I want you to continue this point. Is that the end of the game?
That's almost the end of the game.
Okay.
Where do you think they rank in points per drive? So now they move the ball really well. They turn the ball over way too much. Where do you think they rank in points per drive?
Based on their red zone struggles before their red zone successes, I'll say 14th.
I'm going to say 7.
6th. Now, points per drive, man, Josh is killing this game. Points per drive is a better measure than pure points because it takes into account game flow, right? It kind of helps you, in a way, equalize for what your defense is doing. If the defense is getting you the ball back a lot, points per drive is a good measure. They are moving the ball, and they're actually pretty successful scoring. That they are 6th in points per drive, despite being one of the worst teams in the league in turnovers, is super impressive. And that's even their percentage of red zone drives resulting in a touchdown, by the way, is 23rd. So Nate was on to the right idea there. They've really raised that lately, the last couple of weeks. So their successful plays per drive, they're 2nd in the league. Their third down conversion rate, they're 2nd in the league. They're 3rd and long, 4th in the league. 4th down, 3rd in the league. Their offense, especially after these last 3 games, is good. It's actually good. It just doesn't look pretty all the time. But
is it good? Is it?
But one more. Their explosive play percentage, which it's basically a run over 10 or more yards. I believe it's a pass of 15 or more yards. Or maybe it's 20. Either way, explosive play percentage, where do you think they ranked in the league? This is the last one.
30.
Seth, I think when you mean explosive plays, I think you mean when the zipper comes out, or comes down. So I'm going to say 31st.
Man, 29th in the league, which is slightly better, I guess. But so that's what you look at here is turnovers, which should kind of equalize, right? Because that's mostly a luck thing, especially when your quarterback's Mahomes. And explosive plays. Because if you matriculate the ball down the field, that's great. But what that means is a penalty can derail you. As Adam Sheehan calls them, climactic plays. Thank you, Adam.
I like that. I think that's good.
So they do not have what do you remember against the Chargers? Do you guys remember when this play happened? Do you remember things were looking grim for the Chiefs? They'd given the ball away. They were playing poorly. You know what turns that around fast? A 55-yard touchdown. That is, big plays and turnovers are generally what swing games, and the Chiefs are 7-0 despite stinking in the 2 areas that generally determine the outcome of games. That's incredible, which goes to show if you just become mid at big plays, become mid at it, and stop turning the ball over so much, and you're talking about potentially an offense that's the best in the league, and that's hilarious to me.
I just want people to think Andy Reid in front of the projector, in front of 90 group of men. Fellas, this week we need to be mid.
Yeah, just don't.
Can we just get some
At big
mid?
plays. Defense, keep doing your thing. Running game,
Yeah, right.
keep doing your thing. Xavier Worthy, Patrick Mahomes, anybody who runs a fast, anyone who runs a 9 route, mid.
Yeah, just mid. Just that's the thing, because they have entire games where they don't get one big play. Yes, I know our commenters are impressed that I know what mid means. Having teenagers is helpful occasionally.
Can I do a visual joke?
Okay.
Yes.
The game has concluded, and I beat Nate by a score of 5-0.
He's holding up his penguin flippers.
I'm holding up my flippers, and you can't. There's 5 on this hand and 0 on this hand, but you can't.
It's a great visual.
Thank
and
you.
so
I've been sitting on that joke for long enough that my cheek is sore.
So I did a lot of I did a lot of talking there. I appreciate you guys indulging me in the game. But
it's a podcast. I asked you to do it. I'm glad that you did.
Yeah. It's a good way to let people know that when we say they need to take more deep shots to Xavier Worthy, and what if they don't have the protection? Then run it out of play action under center, dude. Like, there's ways around this. Have Kareem Hunt shove his helmet into the edge rusher's chest. Actually, do it with a tight end. That's better. That block and release. Have Noah Gray block and release. Hey, Wanya, I held him off for 2 seconds. You hold him off for 2 more seconds. You can even lose your block, and we're going to be fine here. Just don't fall over. These are things they can do, and I think they will. There's a reason Mahomes said, having Hopkins and Kelsey working off each other should open up things down the field. He's just sitting there like, Coach, I really would love to throw the ball down the field more. That was the goal coming into the season. Injuries have really robbed them of that. I think you see them make a return to that against a weak Tampa Bay secondary.
I'll just go ahead and give a little bit of a peek behind the curtain here, where Nate and I knocked out our segment for 5 things before this show this week, because everybody's trying to get home for Halloween and everything. And Seth, if you ever wonder if that man stage right from you knows you, he said that what Seth wants is some play action, turn your back to the defense, move side to side deep shots. And I'll say the thing that I said over there as well, which is that what you heard from Mahomes in his presser mentioned today that you just said, Seth, when he says, well, yeah, with Hopkins and Kelsey in the middle of the field, that should open up the deep ball. It's another version of, this is a more fraught version of this conversation, a similar version to run to set up the pass or pass to set up the run. It's all working together all the time.
Yes.
If you're great at some depth at something, the defense is going to start devoting more attention to stopping that, and everything else should get easier. So, hey, I'd argue, throw the ball down the field and watch DeAndre Hopkins and Travis Kelce's lives get even easier. Like, it all pulls together there. So, I want to talk about the other element of that equation that you briefly mentioned. But first, I'm going to grab this super chat from Matt Peterson. Appreciate him sending $10 over to the KCSN Foundation, as all of these super chats go to. I'm hoping the chat will help take care of this as well. But if you guys want to give a little recommendation, Matt is in KC this weekend for the Monday night game. First time at Arrowhead. He hasn't been to Kansas City since he was 10. He's 27 now and needs some recommendations on places to go. He didn't say specifically food or specifically barbecue, although I imagine that's where Seth will find a rec for you. This entire network is very pro Chef J, but we're pro every barbecue place in the area. You can't go wrong. Anything in Kansas City over the last 17 years, Nate, that you think Matt may need to go check out?
I would definitely recommend the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum.
Yep.
I would recommend, with all my heart, Gates Barbecue, because it's the greatest sauce known to man. I would also suggest too, just hang with me here, okay? And this is for I'm trying to think. I'm assuming he will get here on the weekend, so okay, we're getting out of haunted house land, because I was gonna maybe put you in the West Bottoms, get scared at. I mean, do they still do it after? They can do it this weekend. Make more money, guys.
I bet they do.
I bet they do too.
I've never been to any of the West Bottoms haunted houses.
What?
I used to work down there on weekends, doing some weddings and stuff.
You've never been to the Beast?
Through the crowds before. To be honest, Nate, does not really appeal to me. I don't know. I've never done it. What? I've never done a haunted house of any sort. I would, I guess, for like a bit, but I really want to do it. Seth is shaking his head. Seth, you don't strike me as someone who seeks out scares.
I feel no need. I jump scare easier than I should. It's embarrassing, but it is what it is. And so, see, that almost got me.
Not that,
but
easily,
watching
apparently.
watching the Quiet Place movies is just they're so great. But I'm also just in the theater. I'm like, oh man, it's coming. And it still scares me. And so I just don't do haunted houses.
I know Todd here in the chat says the peanut, excellent choice.
Yeah.
If you want wings, do that. Now I know it's not the same because it can't be, and I understand that, but you should. People still enjoy the plaza, so you should still go to the plaza, even though it's not as charming as it.
I'm going to say I don't know about that. I'm gonna say
I know it's not
I got
what
a
it
hot
used
plasma
to
take.
be. Okay, get it off your chest. Get it off your
Overrated.
beak.
Overrated.
Overrated.
Off my beak.
Okay. Off your beak. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great parks. Loose Park. Go out there and catch because the weather's gonna be nice this weekend too, based on what I've seen. So yeah, go out there and get your leaf on. Get your
Go
colored
get your
leaf.
leaf on. That's for sure.
Your colored
As
leaves
someone
on.
who just visits, I found Union Station delightful.
Oh yeah.
You know, I definitely enjoyed that. And I know around Halloween they've got some cool stuff going on with it, and I really enjoyed visiting there. The mall that was nearby was kind of a neat place too, and I mean it was just that's nice. I will say, barbecue from my perspective, everyone else will push for Chef J, which is great. Chef J was incredible. I enjoyed it. I will push for Joe's, and I will also push for Meat Mitch because I personally, and this is all due respect to Nate's Gates take, Meat Mitch's
dare
sauces are some of the very best I've had anywhere. They really are terrific.
Dare you?
My favorite sauce,
really-
my one overall is at Joe's. It's the Night of the Living barbecue sauce.
That stuff's
pretty great.
I could
Yeah,
fill
it's
out a
pretty great.
16-team bracket in my sleep, I think. We're not going to
Yeah.
because we should talk about the Buccaneers and the left tackle some. But there you go, Matt. Hopefully some others take care of you in the chat with some more recommendations as well. Let's talk about the left tackle spot a little bit. We mentioned it on Tuesday. Bad day at the office for Wanya Morris. Not a rare thing for him to have against the Raiders, although in this instance, it wasn't really Max Crosby by and large, and Juwan Taylor did a fabulous job against Crosby in that game. But there's been a little bit of chatter now. I think Andy got asked about it today, just kind of taking a closer look at the left tackle spot. I'm afraid what was on Nate's phone, but I'm not going to ask till after the show, I don't think. Where do things stand at left tackle right now, Nate, if you're physically able? If not, Seth can talk about what he would do instead.
No. Also, Alicia's right. Go to the World War I Museum. If you go to the top of the tower, beautiful view of Kansas City. My son loves the World War I Museum, perhaps more than I would like. Yeah, perhaps more than he would like. Than I would like. Anyway, all right, man. You really think they're gonna bitch this man? You really think that? You really think that Andy
Glasses
Reid,
are down, folks.
You think Andy Reid gonna bench that man? We gonna bench to get to the rebenched? To bench again?
Why'd Andy Reid draft that other man though?
Well, that's for another time and place when we're not trying to go for a third straight Super Bowl now. Now look.
Why did the original man not start the season?
I don't think we're ever gonna find that mystery. I don't think we're ever gonna solve it. Now, you telling me they gonna bitch Wanya Morris?
Smoked weed in Kansas and got hurt, and he had to wait till late in week 2 to get the starting job back. All right, I see how it is.
Yeah, City Market's nice too. I mean,
I've got a suggestion for you. You can do it in Missouri.
Look, man, I don't have the time. I don't have the patience, okay, for the left tackle discussion. You know why? You think it's gonna, Seth? Is it gonna get better between now and February 14th?
Very unlikely.
So what are we doing? Okay, what are we doing? All right, Wanya Morris has the job because he's had the job before, and unless he pulls a hammy or is in a penguin suit, then we're probably not going to see Kingsley Suamataia, who apparently is in a red shirt season, and
yeah, they wanted it to work out his first year. They wanted it. Didn't quite work out. I would just note there's a big difference, in my opinion, between, and it happened quick. I think there's a big difference between benching the one guy and putting in the other guy, and then re-benching, or you know what I mean? Flipping that. Because then you put yourself in a situation, if you, right now, from everything I've heard, doesn't sound like, being benched has really broken Suamataia. He's doing the work. He understands how it goes. He respects Wanya Morris. They're figuring it out. If you put him back in and he struggles again, and you got to bench him again. Now you're like, and plus it just messes with the entire offense. And so I think it's much more risky to do a re-benching than an initial benching. So once Morris came back in, I think it was always going to be, it was either going to be, no, Kingsley's back the next week, or this is what we're doing unless Morris starts playing so badly we can't execute our offense. He came close to that on a few drives against Vegas, but I don't think he was quite there. And I think it would have to happen multiple games. And even then, I wonder if he would just instead call up Don Smith and be like, you got 5 games in you? You got 8 games in you? I would be more likely to do that than I would anything else in that scenario, simply because you got to think about the damage you might do long-term with Kingsley.
The interesting parts of that to me, and I don't disagree with anything you guys have said necessarily, but it does get to some things that are not common with how Andy Reid makes decisions. You're saying, hey, I don't know that you can do this because if you have to pull it again, optics. And like optics are never the reason to make decisions in the NFL, very rarely at least.
Hold on. Whoa. The Indianapolis Colts just made a decision for...
They made another decision? What? The optics. Listen, they got some bad advice then, because the optics for that are actually, I think, worse.
Yep.
But good organizations don't make decisions based on optics. Certainly not your starting offensive lineman, in this case, obviously a left tackle. While I understand this stuff about Kingsley's psyche and all of that, valid. The thing that makes me question, though, is when you started Wanya Morris in week 3, by that logic that I think you're both correct about, you decided in week 3 that Wanya was starting the rest of the year because Kingsley got baptized by Trey Hendrickson. And he was.
Absolutely.
But if Kingsley had been out there against the Raiders, or if Wanya, let me ask you this, if Wanya Morris got hurt against the Buccaneers and Kingsley had to play the next few weeks, would that change your expectations for the offense in a major way? There's a little bit of a weird energy to all of this to me, where you had a guy you clearly wanted to win that job, and he's currently being replaced by a 1 year further in his career player who has played slightly better, but I don't remember even where we landed on week 1 Kingsley, but it feels like I certainly don't believe what I'm about to say to be true, but it feels like it was all set up for this switcheroo and then never ask me about it again. It's like we're gonna give Kingsley, we're gonna give him 2 games. The end of game 2 was a disaster. I mean, most of game 2 was a disaster. So you pull him at the end, and they go, all right, we're gonna hide him for the rest of the season. Where it is like a red shirt of like, we're gonna let him get his 2 games in, and then we're gonna go ahead and put that red shirt on him and try to delay that development by a little bit. Something about it is just a little bit weird to me that I'm not completely settled on.
Yeah, I could see that. I really think the thing with Kingsley, that week 1 performance was pretty poor too. And I just think the funny thing is he went his preseason was pretty solid.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm curious, and I'm going to wonder about this, and this isn't something you'd ever get a full answer to. I wonder if what they saw, and maybe I have some theories on it, but it would be getting a little too deep in the weeds. I wonder if what they saw against Trey was not just losing, but losing in a way that they were like, you are going to get baptized every week until you get this specific issue out, head, hand placement, leaning stuff, which has been an issue for him. And maybe they're just in practice, they're seeing more of the same a little bit. And they're like, look, man, they now see that on film and you're going to get worked. And then Wanya came in. And honestly, until this game against Vegas, I think Wanya had outplayed him pretty comfortably. So that's my theory. But, who knows? Because that really was an ugly performance. It'd be interesting to see, like, let's say he has a couple more really bad performances. Because one thing against Crosby, and Wilson at least has some talent and that kind of stuff, the Bucs pass rush is not really feared. I'm guessing he has a bounce back game there. And that kind of renders the conversation a little more moot.
Week 17, week 18. That's the best case scenario. Is that Kingsley Suamataia plays those 2 games, has better performances in those 2 games because you've essentially ensured the 1 seed, and then you have more stuff to reevaluate for the offseason and year 2. But it was shocking to me that they made the switch for game 3.
Yeah,
I understand why. I
That was so
understand why.
fast.
Yeah, I understand why you bench him in game 2 because he's a rookie and it happens. I'm surprised that Andy didn't go right back to the rookie in game 3.
Yep.
But unlike a lot of previous seasons that I've covered the team, every move since cut down day has been winning third straight Super Bowl pretty much at all costs. So if we don't have to keep Deneric Prince, we can go get Samaje Perine.
Mm-hmm.
Most teams don't even want to call Kareem Hunt. We got to call him. The Patriots don't want Juju Smith-Schuster. We will gladly take him. We will take DeAndre Hopkins. We will take Joshua Uche.
Uche.
Dang it.
We
Uche.
will not take Deontay Johnson for some reason that's still unclear.
Well, they didn't want to trade with us. You know,
That is so funny.
It's so funny. But look, all these things have suggested is that, like, how much can we squeeze every drop to make ourselves that much better for the Super Bowl? So if Wanya Morris gives us a better chance, bleep development right now, because we're trying to do something no team has ever done, and we can always reassess it next year. It's just something that they've chosen to do that is uncharacteristic of what Andy always tries to do, which is win and develop young players throughout the course of the season. And Andy always says this: the only way you get better at playing football is playing football. So this is quite different from previous years. But if they can get a corner next week that they think is better, they will do it. They have shown you over and over and over again this year that we're gonna squeeze that juice. We're gonna squeeze it multiple times. Hoping we can get more juice based on the salary cap constraints and the idea that, like, you know, we have a much better shot at this than the Cowboys. Then maybe they have just about as good of a shot as the 49ers did in 1988, 89 to go three-peat. But I know how that season ends, kids. So you might want to call Donovan Smith because blindside's important, kids. Joe Montana was never the same. Okay, so I get it, but it doesn't. None of this says that, like, Kingsley Suamata is going to, like, come to the rescue and be a fully developed player in week 12. It just doesn't seem that way.
Right.
So I find the discussions about the left tackle a bit, yeah, to Seth's point, kind of a bit. It's very moot because if they were in a more developmental, if they were in a more developmental timeline, he would be playing because he's supposed to be their answer for the foreseeable. But we trying to win games right now.
And I don't think that he's going to swoop in and solve anything in week 12. I wonder if he would be the best left tackle on the roster if he played from weeks 1 through 12. That's part of it for me also. That's interesting.
And that's what you are essentially giving up, right? Because nothing is more important than this next game. Because again, they are.
If they thought he was a bum, you shouldn't start him in week 1. Like I don't know.
But there's
we're well over an hour. We're well over an hour, and we haven't talked about the Buccaneers in any way whatsoever, partially because it is an extra day out, and so we'll have a little extra time to kind of dig into it. But obviously, we won't have another show until Tuesday. So, Seth, give me something you're keeping an eye on that we haven't already talked about. Chiefs-Bucks, if there's a matchup you like, if there's something you are particularly expecting, and a prediction.
Something that's interesting to me is the Bucks defense has not been good against the run, but Vita Vea still exists. Yep. And the way the Chiefs have largely run the ball a lot is with a lot of inside zone and duo and power stuff just right up the middle. And that's where Vita Vea lives. And that'll be kind of an interesting matchup to watch. Their defense has been – they're kind of a cool opportunity for the Chiefs because the Bucs defense has been truly horrendous. But their offense has been genuinely terrific. even
Yes.
after losing Godwin and Evans, which is really unfortunate because they were kind of tearing it up. But they're a really well-designed offense. So it's a good opportunity for the Chiefs to show, for one, it's the defense getting another test against a good offense. Again, missing 2 important weapons. But to show that they can keep moving forward. The offense is playing a lot better now than it was to start the season, other than like the first half against the Ravens when it was like, oh, whoa, what's going to happen here? They've started to shift their identity. That's the big thing that I'm looking for, is kind of that matchup issue that, on theory, this is a Bucs defense that the Chiefs should put up 28, 31, something like that on. Do they? That's really what I'm looking for. Do they take any deep shots? Because they did not against the Raiders, like at all. Do they start to open up things more? And then obviously Hopkins' role. I think I just named like 8 things when you asked for one.
I'll note again, Mike Dana and Kareem Hunt both limited. Kareem Hunt has been limited 1 practice a week for a while now, I think. That seems like a sort of a veteran plan. No Juju Smith-Schuster or Najee Johnson or Ethan Driscoll, who probably wasn't going to play anyway. Again, there's a developmental tackle for you. The guy who they never tried to make play, but they have just left inactive, which is fine, which is a fun way to do it. So expecting no Johnson, no Smith-Schuster. I'll just give you where I'm at, and then Nate, you can kind of make your prediction and get us out of here to trick-or-treating. But with all of that being said, as Seth was saying that, I just wrote down 24-13. Because it just, I do believe in the Chiefs defense. I do think, even as they've been competent last week without the number 2, their top 2 receivers, I love watching Baker Mayfield. I'm kind of excited to see Baker versus Spags, because I just think the energy there is so chaotic that I'm really excited for that.
Yes.
But I will take whatever the Chiefs put out there. I'm kind of expecting, if it is a game where they can just spam the run, not that time of possession matters as an independent stat, because it doesn't without any context, but I could see this being a game where the Chiefs have the ball for a long time and everybody has a few fewer drives than usual, while the Chiefs just functionally run out the clock. Not because that's how you win games, but because it's a side effect of running the football well, by and large. So I'll take the Chiefs in a low-scoring one. Nate, what do you got?
I'll say Chiefs 27, Buccaneers 16. So for all you gamblers out there, I tip my hat to you. Have you watched the Buccaneers try to tackle this season?
It's not been great.
It's horrid at times. So if Xavier Worthy wants to make a play where he catches something, breaks a tackle, and is gone, let's just say I see,
Breaks a tackle, huh?
That was so quiet that usually this doesn't pick up that level.
Yeah, I didn't hear you.
For you there. I heard it perfect.
What if he jukes a guy? He could juke a guy.
Okay, but I'm just saying, if he's ever gonna break a tackle, I've seen this defense, and buddy, it's not great. It's wild going from like the Chiefs defense, which largely doesn't miss tackles, to the Buccaneers defense, which pick and choose when we want to tackle at a level. So, if this was ever the game, that might be my one, wild card prediction, is that, hey, you broke a tackle and there's nobody else there between you and the end zone, Xavier Worthy. So, I hadn't thought a ton about Steve Spagnuolo against Baker Mayfield, but I'll tell Baker Mayfield what he should do. No check down, son. We didn't show up for you to be checked down, Charlie. Hell no. Nah. Scramble and light that thing on fire.
That's it. Deep or take off.
Yep.
There you have it. We're all unsurprisingly going Chiefs. I'm gonna see if any of my fellow adult neighbors will give me some candy here in about 30 minutes, and we'll be back to break down Chiefs and Bucks on Tuesday. Nate, get us out of here.
So, ladies and gentlemen, one of the best things about this job is just the lovely people you meet, whether it's, Ian in the airport, shout out to him, whether it's Kendall and, his son at the cider mill, because that happened a few weeks ago. It's so fun to know that there are people who listen and watch and enjoy. And then I'm ever so reminded that what's the best way I could put this? Because again, if you weren't here previously, I'm getting nonstop communications from Kamala Harris and Donald Trump nonstop. I mean, they are buying your boy drinks at the bar. Okay.
That's a figure of speech, everyone.
Yeah, I believe that's a felony of speech.
So look, all I'm here to say is it's been a hell of a trilogy. Guys, stay safe out there. Don't do nothing stupid. All right? Stay off your phone. Okay? Right? I don't know if it's going to be a quad, but it's been a trilogy. Okay? Go to the polls and shut the hell up.
I don't think the Chiefs and Buccaneers have that contentious of a history.